like she's never kind of the dog. Besides her like afternoon mess.
Can't do that.
We should be like, oh, out of bed.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a couple people that are going to be late because of either distance from the field or conflicting classes, so we're going to go ahead and begin. And I know you've got 1,000 things on your agenda and everything going on at school. So I'm living that life right now. My son John is in his first year of teaching, and so he's living back at home, which is kind of fun. Actually, it's good to have him back around. But he's living that life of the teacher where he's never here. And so what we joke about at home is we think he actually lives at our house, but we're not completely sure. He just has to follow a popcorn trail now and then, and you know that he had a snack late last night, so he must be snake. So he was at least around somewhere, but that's about it. So John gets up at about 5:30 in the morning. He's out the door before 7. He gets home around 6 or so. He runs out to do something else in the evening, whether it be tutoring or back to school or whatever, and then he gets back home late, and I think he comes in and goes to bed or something. So that's about all I know. I've seen him about 3 times in 3 weeks. So life of a teacher is a busy one. We all know that. So a lot of it is just a balancing game, trying to figure out how to keep all of your stuff straight and your paperwork and your grading and so forth. The good news right now is you live in the life of a teacher, but you don't have all the responsibility of doing the day-to-day planning and all the paper grading and all the stuff that goes with that. We'll get to that later. So in the midst of all of that is kind of our research we're doing in the spring, and our purpose today is to kind of pull a few of those pieces together. The 4160 is really primarily independent between you and your advisor. But we have 2 meetings this fall and 1 in the winter, just to kind of touch base, make sure we're on the same page, and talk about a few of the things that go into planning, writing, and presenting a research project to make sure that we're all on the same page. So we're going to do a little bit tonight. Our agenda this afternoon is like this. We're going to start with a little bit with just talking about syllabus and kind of what's required. We're going to talk about where your research projects are right now that you're out in the field and you're getting a kind of a fresh look at what you might want to be doing. We're going to talk a little bit about chapter 7 from your book, a little Q&A, talk about our sessions, and then get a to-do list together for next time. So I want to start off with just a few things about syllabus. So it's just so you know what's expected and what we're going to be doing as we go through this fall and into the spring. So if you've got your computer, laptop, anything with you that you can pull this up, the syllabus is posted at Canvas. You can just go to our 4160 site and go under syllabus, and it's a download as a PDF. I'm just going to open that up here. This should look pretty familiar to you. All the stuff that's on here is a lot of this is kind of almost duplicated in a way from 3160 and what we did last year. But I just want to kind of point out a couple of highlights here. We continue on in the same book that we're reading. And at the end of the course, it says under the description, you will submit and complete an action research paper as a capstone project for education. If you're in honors, it double dips as both your capstone project for the honors program and for action. And those papers will require collection and analysis of data and a summary of conclusions and implications. So, in the class, our learning outcomes are going to need to talk a little bit about collecting, how to collect data, how to analyze it, and draw conclusions, and write kind of a final paper. Where we're headed here is that by the time you get to the end of middle of spring semester, you're going to have completed a research paper from beginning to end that has a title page, an introduction, a literature review, methodology, data and its analysis, and some conclusions in APA format. So we're headed kind of in that direction. There are, just like for 3160, there are 3 main assessments for the class. One is your attendance and participation at our 3 sessions. We have a session today on October 21st, and then again sometime in January, where we talk about chapters 7, 12, and 13. We'll have your project advisors will do the exact same checklist that they did last year. So just as a reminder about that, this is also downloadable from Canvas, but it's the same form we used last year, slightly modified, but this is going to be due to our office by April 15th. And just a reminder to you of what your advisors did last year. Your faculty advisors rated you in 4 areas. One is your ability to set and meet deadlines. One is that you discussed, wrote, and submitted an acceptable research paper, that you communicated with them regularly, and that you act professionally. If you do all of the above, it's slam dunk with points, and you get full credit for it, 30 points. The most important thing is this communication piece. Okay? We talked about that last year. Make sure that your faculty advisor is in the loop every step of the way. We just don't, it's a very difficult situation. I can tell you that I've been in it the first couple of years, where you get into January, February, and discover that the student and the advisor really haven't talked much at all, and the advisor is kind of out of the loop. It feels like they don't even know what the student's doing, and it's really weird that there hasn't been a conversation. So it isn't the norm, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. So you just want to make sure along the process here that you are in pretty constant contact with your faculty advisor. I mentioned the 3160 group last week, our upcoming cohort 4 folks, that faculty advisors are paid to do the advising. Not a whole lot, right, Dr. Bossett? You're not getting rich off of it.
No, sir.
But they are paid to do it because they agreed to do it, and it's our way of saying thank you to them. So they are expecting, to put some time in with you. They want to work with you, and so make sure that you're using them throughout the process, and you're bouncing ideas off of them, writing drafts, saying what do you think about this, etc., so that you mold and shape the best project that you possibly can. By the time you get to the end of all of this process, by April of next year, you'll have completed the project, written your paper, and you'll be presenting it to one another actually at a common time in the spring semester with short PowerPoint presentations to kind of close all of this down. So they will be completing that form for you. Again, that's due in April, so that's, you should be familiar with that. We've done that in the past. That's all. There's a rubric also for the final paper. We're going to talk more about that later on, so I'm not worried about that tonight. Do you have any questions at all about format, what we're doing, where you're headed, etc.? All right, great. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here. What I'd like to do right now is to do a little bit of summary of, and let you summarize where your projects are right now. Because one of the things we talked about last fall was you're interested in a topic, and you wrote about it last year. You wrote kind of a mock literature review and talked a little bit about what your research might look like if you did research on that topic. But I also left the door wide open for you that once you got out into the field, in some cases, the very first day you walk into the school, you say, uh-oh, I don't think what I was going to do my research on is going to work here. Or I need to tweak that a little bit or change it or whatever. And so I'd like to get an update from you, now that you've been in the field for a few days, to figure out where things are at, and particularly, I want to know kind of what your project proposal was about, or is about. Tell us who your faculty mentor is, and give us a short status update. Are you likely to modify your original proposal based on your field experience, or have your interests changed, or you pretty much headed down the same road that you originally were on? And feel free to ask one another questions in the process of that, because we might discover that somebody's got an issue they're dealing with in the field right now that somebody else has got exactly the same issue. We can all talk about it together. Okay? So if you want to move chairs a little bit, somehow like this, so you can all see one another, kind of like the best we can do for a circle.